Hi, I'm Tracy Townsend. I will be bringing you through this week's top stories from around Columbus. A Whitehall council member was arrested this week on sexual misconduct involving minors. As investigators continue digging into this case, residents and even city leaders there are calling for the council member to resign. In Columbus, city council members are taking action to regulate submetering and utility reselling in the city. Some leaders say this move would help give some customers more consumer protection. And a free tuition program for Columbus high school students is facing some uncertainty. The Columbus program was excluded from the city's proposed budget next year. Some people are worried about the program being able to continue. Let's dive into these stories and more making headlines around our city.
But this investigation was launched about a year after the criminal investigation was completed. Why the lapse in time between the two?
We thought it was really important to take our time to look at everything, to let the process play out. And we are not in a hurry. We're not in a rush to judgment. We want to follow the facts wherever they lead us.
In June, Columbus City Council approved funding for an investigation into Fire Chief Jeff Happ's handling of the July 2023 fatal crash involving Engine 5, driven by probationary firefighter Tyler Connors. The engine crossed lanes of traffic on 270, and Timothy Wiggins crashed into the back of the engine and did not survive. On October 13th, I put in a public records request for all emails from May 2025 through October 1st, 2025, between Public Safety Director Kate Bisciotti and Happ regarding the crash. Public Safety told me there were none. After pushing for the public records on December 9th, nearly 2 months after my initial request, I received these emails between the two city leaders. There are only a handful of emails, mostly discussing staffing levels, bullet damage to Station 16, and fleet expansion. This email, dated June 8th, stems from a meeting between Happ and Bisciotti, written to the mayor and Bisciotti.
If the chief was willing to transition out and even said, let's discuss a buyout, why not do that instead of a lengthy investigation that cost the city $60,000?
Because we think accountability and transparency matter to the people of Columbus. They want to know what happened.
Happ writes in the email he wants to continue serving in the role, but only if we can reestablish honest collaboration and a more respectful dynamic between the division, the mayor's office, and the Department of Public Safety.
Was there an issue going on there before the investigation was launched in June?
I'm not aware of anything specifically. I know that we are always pushing, folks that work for the city to do their very best to deliver high quality services to people of Columbus in new, different, and innovative ways. We're committed to change and reform and innovation. Some folks, have bought in and are working with us on that. Others have been reluctant.
In the email, Happ writes, during contract negotiations, I was told that if the agreement didn't align with the city's financial direction, the city would scorch the earth.
Was that something that you said to him, sir?
I don't recall.
Criminal charges against Whitehall City Council member Gerald Dixon of sexual misconduct with minors, leading members of the community to speak out, calling on him to resign from his position.
Keep kids safe! Keep kids safe!
Tuesday night, the council member was sworn in to serve another term hours after being released from jail, leading to council members receiving a number of emails from concerned residents asking for Dixon to be removed immediately. I spoke with Whitehall City Attorney Brad Nicodemus Tuesday night, who shared the removal process takes time and must start with a motion, which can happen during any voting meeting.
If someone were to make that motion to remove him for gross misconduct, the vote would not happen that night. Evidence would be presented as to why that council member thinks it's gross misconduct. Mr. Dixon would have an opportunity to respond and present his side, and then council would deliberate on that.
Thursday night, I received this response from Council President Thomas Potter, stating in part, as president of Whitehall City Council, I have requested a legal opinion from our city attorney based on the city charter and council rules as to the options for removing Councilman Dixon. This opinion will be provided to council prior to our next meeting. It would not be appropriate for me to speculate on those options before that. Potter then explained if council removes Dixon in December, it will not affect his term starting in January, so they will be mindful of that as they move forward. He adds, while I, like many in our community, are shocked and troubled by these charges, we are mandated to follow our procedures for removal. Nonetheless, I stand with those individuals who report such experiences and hope they receive justice as well as the care and support they need.
Last night here at City Hall, Council passed legislation that would regulate the reselling of utilities like water and electric. City Council hopes that this will increase billing transparency and prevent residents from paying more than their fair share.
Basically, you're not being treated as an equal.
David Denegri started asking questions about submetering after realizing he was not paying his bills directly to the utility company, instead to a third-party billing agent.
I was a heart patient and I was eligible for energy assistance, and they just made it very difficult for me to get it.
In submetered housing, landlords pay one large utility bill, and a third-party company divides it up and bills tenants. That company isn't regulated by the state, meaning tenants don't get the same protections. Columbus City Council member Christopher White explained why he wants to regulate this practice.
It has consistently been reported that utility reselling has inflated residential utility bills for individuals in multifamily complexes, and additionally, most residents are often not aware that they're being resold a utility.
The code change says landlords and billing companies cannot charge tenants more than what the utility company would have charged them directly. It also puts caps on administrative and late fees. Dimitri Hatzifotinos, who represents landlords as the attorney for the Columbus Apartment Association, says it will be even more important for landlords to outline how utilities will be billed in a tenant's lease.
There is still the ability to charge different than what the landlord pays, because the landlord can buy in bulk and then charge separately, but they shouldn't be paying more than what they are already would have been paying, like at AEP or the City of Columbus.
City Council's original legislation introduced in April would have banned the practice of reselling utilities outright, but White says that could have led to rent increases. But this initial action is welcomed by residents like Denegri.
Well, I'm glad to see they're taking an initial step in doing this.
Right now, there's also a piece of bipartisan legislation that's been introduced in the House that would create similar submetering regulations across Ohio. That bill has been sent to House committee. Reporting in Columbus, Carla Rogner, 10 TV News.
They definitely helped me a lot with coming here and the transition from high school to college.
The Columbus Promise is a partnership between the City of Columbus, Columbus City Schools, Columbus State Community College, and the organization I Know I Can. The Columbus Promise is for Columbus City Schools graduates going to Columbus State. It provides students with free tuition, a $500 semesterly stipend, and extra student services.
I have access to academic help, there's tutors.
Earlier this year, the city announced $25 million between public and private entities would be raised to keep the program going. The city's 2026 proposed budget does not provide money for the program.
We had to make some tough decisions. We had to protect basic city services. We had to invest in police classes. But our commitment to Columbus Promise has not gone away.
Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther says the city has already invested $7 million in the Columbus Promise. He says he believes the program will be able to continue. He says he's committed to working with City Council, Columbus State, and the private sector to raise money to fund the program.
So are you confident the program will continue?
I'm confident.
A spokesperson for Columbus State said in a statement, "We're grateful for the city's support of Columbus Promise since the inception of this program, which has doubled college going from Columbus City Schools to Columbus State. We remain committed to Columbus Promise and will engage with city leaders as the city's budget process continues." Columbus State students I talked to say a loss of funding to the program could hurt.
That would make it harder, that would make it less accessible. And then for kids who aren't in college yet, a lot less kids will be going to college, because I know a lot of kids who came here and are planning to go here just because of the Columbus Promise.
But they have faith it'll last.
I do have faith that things will work out.
Where do you stand on the death penalty in Ohio, considering the experience you have had?
I am 100% opposed to the death penalty in all forms.
Capital punishment is a sensitive topic for Lamont Hunter Sr.
Yeah, I was wrongfully convicted and sentenced to death back in 2007.
He spent 16 years on death row after being convicted of killing his girlfriend's 3-year-old son. Hunter told 10 Investigates the boy fell down basement stairs. And according to court reporting, at the time of his first trial, a coroner testified that the toddler had actually been shaken to death. But in May of 2023, after that coroner was given new evidence, she changed her mind, and Hunter was granted a new trial.
I eventually did what I did, accepted a plea agreement and came home to my family and regained my freedom. I just want to say that I'm happy to be able to get back to the business of living my life and with my children.
In the end, Hunter pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter and child endangerment and was released on time served.
All the emotions you can think of.
His experience with death row is one not many will ever share, but his opinion on it is becoming more common in our state. A 2023 survey by the Terrence Group found that 56% of Ohioans would swap out the death penalty for life without parole. And in October, almost 30 former lawmakers who helped to reinstate the death penalty back in 1981 added their voices to that chorus through this open letter. They said the law isn't always applied fairly, and the money allocated for it could be better spent helping victims' families or preventing crime. State Senator Nikki Antonio has been working to repeal the death penalty since 2014. Her latest push is waiting to be heard in committee.
I think it's really important that we get this done, and so no, we'll keep at it. I do believe we're probably closer than we've ever been.
But not everyone feels the same way. In its latest review of Ohio's capital crime law, the Attorney General's office called out the state for the unofficial moratorium it's had on capital punishment since 2020. It came after a federal judge questioned whether Ohio's lethal injection practices were humane. The AG's office said it will comply with the Trump administration's 2025 push to restore the death penalty nationwide. And that law review also highlighted House Bill 36, which would allow Ohio to also use nitrogen gas for executions. Attorney General Dave Yost testified in support of that bill to a House committee in October.
By failing to keep our promises to the family members of the slain, we dishonor them. Our failure to keep our promises to juries who sacrificed a piece of their lives to do their duty is also dishonorable.
10 Investigates also got a chance to sit down with one of the bill's sponsors, Representative Phil Plummer, and he told me he welcomes the debate surrounding this issue.
There's people 100% for it and there's 100% against it. But we, as a society, the rule of law, will sit down and figure it out. You know, I may lose that debate, and if I do, so be it.
Right now, his bill is awaiting another hearing in the House Judiciary Committee. In Columbus, Rochelle Aline, 10 TV News.
Be honest with you, I was super surprised.
Governor Mike DeWine once again calling on the Ohio Board of Pharmacy to immediately designate Kratom as an illegal drug. This time, he's asking the board to ban synthetic Kratom first, while he pursues a more traditional rulemaking process to ban natural Kratom. In a statement Thursday, the governor said national experts agree synthetic Kratom compounds should be scheduled as illegal. And while he still has deep concerns about natural Kratom, he says a standard rule process will allow for hearings, testimony, and a more deliberate review. That move raising alarms for Ohio business owners who say they only sell Kratom in its natural form.
He should have just put in there, hey, we're going to ban all the synthetics and we're going to leave powder alone.
I thought and I wish that the synthetic stuff had been banned a long time ago. It is hurting people. I just don't feel like there's any reason to ban natural Kratom.
Kratom, a plant native to Southeast Asia, has grown in popularity across the U.S. Advocates say it's a safe supplement for pain and mental health, but state officials point to its growing connection to overdose deaths. DeWine cites preliminary data from the Ohio Department of Health showing kratom was a cause of death in more than 200 unintentional overdose cases between 2019 and 2024. But business owners tell us an outright ban of natural kratom, too, would hurt Ohioans.
It's not only going to put people out of business. I personally worry more about my customer.
What's going to happen? They're either going to go back on, their pharmaceutical drugs, but most likely they're all going to go back to the harder, drugs. It just keeps them clean.
With public comment potentially on the way, they say they're ready to weigh in.
We would absolutely step forward as long as the people that are at that hearing, are they actually willing to listen?
And I'll do whatever I can, I'll fight this all the way down.
According to this report, between last July and this June, 36 of the 55 companies that were offered tax incentives to create and retain jobs did not meet their goal. It was the same story for 3 of the 5 companies that were offered loans for that very same goal. We spoke to one of the companies who were offered one of those loans, and I want to share what they said happened and what they're planning to do moving forward. The folks at Fortuity in Franklinton tell 10TV they have a commitment to community.
We've really wanted to provide good paying jobs with opportunity for advancement.
And it's one, they say, is baked into the culture at their call center.
We provide help with eviction if people are going through that, or finding affordable housing, help finding access to affordable, healthy food if that's something they're looking for.
But it hasn't always been an easy road. They're one of 60 Ohio businesses who got either a loan or tax incentive offer in the last fiscal year to help them create and maintain jobs. A state audit report found that Fortuity and 39 others were found non-compliant. According to that report, they created 200 jobs but didn't retain them. Here's what they said happened.
We're incredibly grateful for the support from the state of Ohio and the Department of Development. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for the support that they provided over the last 8 years. Yes, we missed the number. COVID changed everything in this industry. The shift to work from home drove a shift to Central Ohio losing about 60% of the contact center jobs that we've had.
They say they plan to pay back the $2.5 million loan they got from the state, and to do so, they're pivoting their business model.
We've had to look at really focusing on highly regulated industries that aren't able to offshore or nearshore a lot of their service. So industries like healthcare, insurance, financial services, and some of those specific roles that have to be here onshore.
Now, according to that same report, non-compliant businesses are referred to the Attorney General's office. So we contacted them. They told us they're reviewing that report and had no further comment to offer. Reporting for 10 TV, I'm Rochelle Aline.
The gifts on the shelf behind me here are the only ones the fire department was able to salvage. They say they had to throw thousands of presents away.
Typically, this area would be overflowing with toys, almost literally overflowing. So try to picture in your mind toys from floor all the way up to ceiling.
Empty shelves that should be full of toys. It wasn't the Grinch that stole Christmas here, but a sewage leak.
All of that spilled through into our basement area, and that's where we are here today. And on top of all of the toys that we were poised to hand out this holiday season.
The damage left a big mess behind, but right now the biggest problem is replacing all the contaminated gifts.
This is really all we have left from the thousands of toys we've had previously.
The fire station provides Christmas gifts to about 1,000 families in the Hilliard area, a tradition they take seriously.
We're nervous. We're going to continue to keep our nose to the grindstone and work every angle we can work to try to provide for these kids.
Firefighters took this dilemma to social media, and the community is answering.
Being at the firehouse all day today, the doorbell has rang basically nonstop with folks dropping off toys.
Yeah, we saw it at 1:30 in the morning.
Liam Geither and his family went shopping after hearing the news overnight, adding to the already overflowing donation bins in the station lobby.
It's the holiday season. Gotta give back when you can.
The fire station will need a lot more holiday magic to replace the thousands of gifts they had to toss out. They're asking for people to drop off unwrapped Christmas presents for kids of all ages to any Norwich Township station or the Hilliard Food Pantry.
We do need a Christmas miracle, so if anybody has a direct line to Santa, maybe they can give us a call, give them a call for us.
The fire department doesn't have a long time to get back all of the gifts that they had to throw away. They say Monday is the deadline to start handing these presents out to families, so they're hoping to refill these shelves by then. Reporting in Hilliard, Carla Rogner, 10 TV News.
After a lengthy investigation and a previous hearing, today it took the medical board less than 10 minutes to make their decision. They voted to revoke David Wensky's medical license and fined him $20,000. According to a medical board investigation, he's accused of inappropriately touching several patients while working as a gastroenterologist in Columbus between 2011 and 2017. He was fired from that Columbus office in 2017 after an internal investigation. The medical board investigation shows he then started working in the Cincinnati area. He's accused of looking under a patient's gown as she was waking up from sedation, and it goes on to say he was found kissing a drunken coworker and patient while living there. Here's what a medical board member had to say about this case earlier today.
This case was quite egregious. I think to protect the public from a sexual predator like this, we have no choice but to revoke the license of this doctor.
Now, it's important to note that Wensky has denied any wrongdoing since this case started, and at this point, he's not facing any criminal charges that we can confirm. In a written argument back in August, his legal team said there were no witnesses to back up what his accusers were saying. And we have contacted his legal team for comment on today's decision, but we're still waiting to hear back. In the studio, Rochelle Aline, 10 TV News.
I run 4 days a week, swim twice, bike 3, and just alternate them.
Lucas Maddox is putting in the work at his home gym, on the bike path, and at the pool, training for a half Ironman this weekend. The harder he works, the more grateful he feels.
When things get hard in training, by my own choice, all I think is of me as a kid. 6 weeks old, I almost had my life taken away from me.
Lucas's parents knew something was wrong and brought him to Nationwide Children's, where doctors diagnosed him with shaken baby syndrome, an abusive head trauma he says happened while he was in the care of a babysitter.
I had retinal hemorrhaging and brain hemorrhaging, active bleeding on the brain. That began the long journey of physical therapy, occupational therapy as a baby. I don't remember any of it because I was obviously 6 weeks old, but I do remember growing up and having to constantly go get like MRIs and CAT scans.
When he turned 16, doctors cleared Lucas of any permanent brain damage.
If I never mentioned this, you wouldn't know that it happened.
Since that day, Lucas has channeled his health and strength into raising awareness for the diagnosis that could have taken his life.
And so now I will never take it for granted.
According to the National Center on Shaken Baby Syndrome, about 25% of babies diagnosed die, and 80% of survivors suffer lifelong disabilities, including permanent brain damage and developmental delays. When Maddox competes in the half Ironman this weekend and in the full Ironman next fall, he believes he will be the first survivor of shaken baby syndrome to do it.
God gave me a second chance at life, and now I'm finally realizing that I can do something to help others, like something great with it.
If Ohio State plays Texas A&M, which is one of the two teams it could be, that could be a home game for them because it's in Dallas. So we're really hoping to make that stadium as scarlet and gray as we possibly can.
And one person who will be there, OSU sophomore Braden Otto, a Buckeye fan through and through.
Since I was little, day after I was born, wearing Ohio State onesie, so.
He and his aunts joining the Office of Student Life's Bowl Tour to cheer on the team. It's not the first year the family has done it either. Here are some photos from their travels last year.
We went to the Rose Bowl, and then we went to the National Championship game, and it was a lot of fun, and so we want to continue it this year.
And what if you want to go? Say you want a whirlwind of a one-night trip, fly out game day and come back the next. Google Flights says American will run you almost $600 for a nonstop ticket. Southwest can get you there nonstop for a little more than $400. But you don't have much time before the game. And if you're driving, well, get ready for 15 hours of road time. So get some podcasts ready. From 97.1 The Fan, of course. And then you'll also have to get a place to stay and pay for your ticket.
You know, the true Buckeye fans want to go wherever they go.
At Travel Partners of Dublin.
Travel Partners, this is Janice. How may I help you?
They're getting those fans ready who want to take the hassle out of planning their own bowl game travel.
You show up, we tell you where to go, what to do, and you just know what time I need to get on the bus. It takes you to the tailgate, to the game, all that good stuff.
That's a wrap on this week's edition of Around Columbus, your look at the stories shaping Central Ohio. Thanks for spending time with us. Stay safe, stay informed. We'll see you next time. Don't forget, you can always get the latest updates on the go with the free 10TV News app.